I actually shot two interviews with two major sit-down interviews with Bob and Sherry, and this was the second one. And one of the things I wanted to focus on was there was a period of time in Bob's life before he met Sherry. He devised all these methods to kind of force himself to do various things, and I always found it very, very fascinating. On a number of different levels. I found it like very formal, almost as these were art pieces in one way. He did actually construct one, which you see in the performance montage when he's hanging by his wrists, and he has actually water dripping in to an empty milk carton, and the water has to drip into a certain amount before it will release him. And he only has, in that situation, 3-4 minutes before it really becomes very, very painful. So these things always had their own kind of risk, but there's an incredible humor to all these things. So it was just such rich Bob territory that I really wanted to get it in. But the reason I couldn't is that you can see it's 5 or 6 or 7 minutes of just a very fascinating interview piece. But I had really no visual footage at all to complement it, so it would have just thrown the pacing of the film off. So I'm really glad to be able to put it in now.
After I met Sherry, a lot of these machines came about after we would split up a couple of times here and there for brief periods of time. So having this time alone again seems to be when I get these ideas. So what I did was I had this enlarger. I had a little dark room in the bathroom. I took the enlarger out and attached a needle to the lens, and then I strapped my dick to the bottom of it, and I kept cranking down the enlarger more and more and more until finally the needle got closer and closer to my dick. And as soon as it broke the skin out, oh my God, and I reversed it back up again. I thought I had done some permanent damage or something. And the more I found out that things weren't permanently damaging, the easier it got to do things. There was a movie that I remember with lots of good torture stuff was The Pit and the Pendulum, the Roger Corman one. So I made a pendulum out of an old saw on a string hanging from the shower rod. I laid down on the edge of the bathtub, and the saw wasn't sharp enough for me, so I put taped little rows of needles along the edge of the saw blade. And then I had two hands, one to lower the saw and one to get it swinging back and forth. So that I was lying here watching the saw get closer and closer to my stomach, reenacting the pit and the pendulum. I guess the bathtub was the pit, and it did. It scratched up my stomach. I kept sawed right, I didn't saw, but I had some pretty good scratches there for about a week or two. I had to handcuff myself up or lock myself up, and then have the keys in ice and just wait for the ice to melt before I could get out. Another time I was staying in an apartment where I could walk out to get my mail without the neighbors seeing me. So I handcuffed myself and mailed the key to myself. I think I may have done it on a Friday, so I'd have the whole weekend to have to deal with these handcuffs. And mailed the key to myself and have to wait for the mail to arrive on Monday. Walk out to the mailbox, hope it was there, and there it was. So unlock myself. A lot of these machines come from being too chicken to do anything to myself, and there's not being anybody else around to do anything to me. I try to come up with these forcing myself to be the victim of fate once I set the machine up that I hopefully wouldn't be able to get out of it until the machine did what I wanted it to do. I had this thing where I had a list of things I'd have to kind of roll the dice. I forgot how it was. It was some sort of game of chance, and it would say, mix this with your oatmeal. So I'd have to put hot pepper in the oatmeal, or pea in the oatmeal, or something in the oatmeal. And the oatmeal was the base. Sometimes it was plain oatmeal, sometimes it was oatmeal and sugar, sometimes. So I had about 26 different things, possibilities. I came up with this mechanical way of having to get through it. So what I did was took a dog dish, cut a little slit hole in the bottom of the dish, and attached it to the weight bench. And then I laid down on my stomach with my head just by the dog dish, and I put a key in there to a padlock. And I locked my hands underneath the dog dish so I couldn't get out. And then put the oatmeal and other stuff that was in there, mixed it in with the key. So the idea was I'd have to eat all the stuff in the dish, get this key in my mouth, pass it through the little slot at the bottom of the dog dish, so it would drop down to where my hands were, and I could unlock my hands and get out of that position. So the thing was, if I didn't eat whatever crap I put in the bowl, I wouldn't be able to get out of that position. It's probably the most exciting kind of sex there is to me. Not to put down a relationship. Relationships are great for a lot, obviously, but there's this buzz that's there. And I always explain it as the buzz of the voice in your head that's saying, that wants to protect the body, arguing or combating the voice in the head that wants to hurt the body at the same time. And it's almost there's a sexual or some sort of an electric explosion that happens when those two